Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday to you. We are here at the start of another beautiful week. It's the middle of the week, it's hump day. How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. Please tell us exactly where you're joining us from. This is going to be an amazing conversation. I really wanted to have this conversation with Tandi for some time now because she's absolutely amazing, such an inspirational speaker. But her message and what she's trying to achieve with supporting Black women in leadership, I had to bring her on this show so we could have this talk. So I'm going to bring up Tandi. Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
hi Julie.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Oh, I'm
We
excited to be here. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
we're going to talk about leadership, especially in HR. How do you climb that ladder in your HR career successfully? And how do you make the necessary steps to being intentional about building your career in HR? And I think you are one of the best people for us to have this conversation with. I'm absolutely honored to have you here. But before we get started, I am going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience and share a little bit of your origin story so you can let everyone know who you are, how you got here, and please share some of those amazing accomplishments that you achieved recently because I think that our audience would love that as we talk about building your career in HR. I will see you in a sec.
Thank you so much, Julie. Well, my name's Yetunde Hoffman, and I just love nothing more than having people and organization get the very best out of all of who they are. Because when we operate at our very best, it's amazing. It's amazing what we can accomplish. And over the years, I've come to establish three tenets for myself. There's love, leadership, and results. And love to me is that unconditional acceptance of all of who I am. What's and all, my background, my gender, my orientation, all of that. Because when I can accept myself for all of who I am, it means I can do the same for you and create an environment where you can also accept yourself. And leadership for me stands on the point that we all are leaders, whether you're ruling a nation or sweeping the streets. We all are leaders. We're making decisions, we're being responsible, we have to be authentic, we build trust, and so on. And when you combine those two tenets, love and leadership, the results we can create for ourselves and for others can be really extraordinary. And this is why I love the world of HR. HR for me is a leadership function. It is one of the most critical roles in organization, if not the most critical role. And Julie's asked me to say, how did I get into HR? Actually, it wasn't planned. I fell into HR. When I completed my MBA many years ago, I wanted to go for a job where I could make some money, please my parents. You know, I'm Nigerian, and my mother wanted me to be a doctor, a lawyer, a finance person. And I just wanted to please them. So I was going for every job going. I must have applied for over 100 different jobs. And then eventually I landed a job opportunity to join at the Reuters accountancy graduate scheme. And when I went for the interviews, it was one person there. You know how somebody sees something in you and says, well, Yetunde, we'd love to have you, but finance is not for you. We think HR, in those days, it was called personnel management. Personnel management might be the right job for you. So I thought, okay, let me explore this. And I just absolutely loved the notion of going there. But I was asked to go and do a job abroad, and I didn't want to do that. So I stayed back, and then I started to pursue roles in the world of personnel management. And that's how I began my journey. So I went to Nigeria, I did my national service, I worked in a not for profit organization, then came back to the UK, then applied for, I must have gone for over 100, 120 job interviews. A story of that for another time. and landed my first job in the UK in a manufacturing organization. Then I did different roles in that where I cut my teeth in the world of employee relations, dealing with unions, bringing in basic policies that really helped the factories and the factory workers have a clarity of role and responsibility. And then I left Northern Foods, and I tell you something, I applied for 6 jobs. I got 6 of them, which was awesome, having had so many rejections. And now I had 6 offers. And the one that I took, and I've never looked back, was joining Unilever. That was my first branded international job. And then I did a variety of roles in Unilever for about 7, 8 years. Then I left to join a company where I had a global role in the drinks industry, and then left that to go and drive change in a massive FTSE 25 business. And that was amazing. And not long after that, having done a job where I was driving change and looking at the operating model of this organization, leading a wide and diverse team of people across the world, I was tired and I felt drained. And it was time for me to have a change. So I stepped out. I stepped out without a job to go to. And for anybody listening out there, if you're in that place and you think, gosh, I've had enough and you want to step out, I tell you, do it and trust yourself, knowing that you'll land on your feet. So I did that. I took some time out. I stepped out, and with help, with the support of a great network, now I'm loving what I do. I sit on the board of a company where I chair their REMCO. And when you have an HR background, it's fantastic. So I chair their REMCO. I sit on the board of a not for profit organization. I run my own organization, my own consulting practice, which is about driving change and helping people and organization be the very best that they can. And I'm the founder of Solaris. I am an author. I'm enjoying speaking here to Julie and talking with you. And I think life is good. I'm very excited about the future, and definitely for the world of HR and all HR professionals listening out there.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You're very
Jacqueline.
welcome.
It's so funny. Like, I always hear this experience of like falling into HR, but what a ride! What a journey!
And I'm still writing.
And you're still riding that wave, and you are absolutely amazing. You have 2 amazing accomplishments that we were talking about before we went live. I feel like it's
Ah,
important for people to know those accomplishments because you are so amazing.
oh,
What has
thank you
happened
so
to you
much.
recently that these beautiful people need to know about?
Well, first of all, I mean, in September, I was awarded the highest status possible by the CIPD. So I was made a chartered companion of the CIPD, the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. And that really meant a lot to me. Why is that? Because I sat on their board as a non executive director for 6 years. I chaired the REMCO, I was champion of the Middle East, and it was just wonderful. I was invited to speak at different branches, regional branches of HR, and I met so many awesome people, so many wonderful leaders. And when, of course, I stepped off the board, but I think I wasn't expecting, I wasn't expecting to be given that award because I served the profession and I continue to serve it for love of it. But it was a surprise when I got awarded it, and I feel so proud. So I'm now a chartered companion of the CIPD, and I wear it proudly on my profile.
Yeah,
And then, like as if that wasn't enough,
enough.
Julie, then I was then recognized as one of HR's most influential thinkers for 2021.
Yes.
And again, that came out of the blue, but I was just so chuffed. I think if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I say I am chuffed,
Just,
just so
yes,
chuffed. And I'm chuffed particularly because of the group of people that were also
I
um,
know.
identified as HR's most influential thinkers. These are people that
So many of my
inspire me,
friends.
and I love to
Yes.
read about them. So yeah,
Yes.
life is good.
So many of my friends were listed on that list. One of my newest people that I'm getting to know, Shireen Daniels, she was number
Yes,
one.
she's number one.
She is
Yes,
number one.
absolutely.
And it feels great to see women of color take that spot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then you also have people like Dr. Naima Pasha,
Yes,
as well, another woman of color from the Henley Business School. So it was nice to be in that group
yes,
and to see how diverse they were as well. I
right,
couldn't
yeah,
make it to the celebration event in
right.
London, but it was just lovely to learn about it. Yeah,
Yes. And so it just really goes to show, right, that the sky is the limit for us in HR. And all we
it
have
is.
to do is be able to actually embrace these opportunities that are put before us. And that's what we're going to talk about. How do we climb this ladder? I want to ask you this first because I see like a lot of us as HR professionals, especially for HR professionals in the space as women and as women of color, we struggle a lot with taking time to take care of our professional and our personal development. And I'm not just talking about the HR qualifications because there's so much more to learn to develop our craft as HR, as you would know. Why do you think that we struggle with that, Yatandi?
Do you know what, Julie? First of all, I not everybody does, not everybody does, and that's because we all have different strengths and we all have different values.
Mm-hmm.
For those of us who do, and it's important because I want to say to you, if you're struggling, you've got to find a way to get over it because you are in the most important, most critical role in your organization today. And you cannot afford to, to make your personal and professional development second best. You cannot afford to do that. Now, why, for those who do, why do they? Because there's a tendency for HR leaders and HR people to put the needs of the business, the needs of colleagues, the needs of everybody else before their own.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why. So, and it's to do whether it's an event they're meant to be going to externally. As soon as something important comes in at work, I'm needed, they let that go. So we're
Mm-hmm.
like the cobbler's children, the last to be fed, the
Mm-hmm.
last to be supported. And then to add to it, sometimes the colleagues that we work with that don't really understand the nature and the value of HR. When there's a budget cut, when times are hard, which team, which department suffers the most?
Yeah.
HR. And
HR.
then within the HR department, the learning and development professionals.
Yes.
So it's so important to to look at ways of putting yourself first.
First.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think the third thing is the nature is the value of the person.
Yeah.
Because I think that you cannot come into HR if you don't have a genuine desire to want people to succeed.
Yeah.
And if you have that genuine desire, sometimes it's easier to say, okay, I'll go without so that you can.
Mm-hmm.
I won't spend that on myself. I'll have it for your team.
Yeah.
It's important to nominate that person to the project before I get put on the project. And I think that the future of work being human, the future of work needing HR leaders, it's about time that HR leaders, and I mean, we all are leaders, whether you're
Yes.
the HR
Sure.
administrator or the HRD, yeah? It's
Yes.
about time you put yourself forward.
Exactly. I want to clap. I see so many people in the chat just loving you to death. So, like, I see Sandra Wood saying, "Love you, Tundi. Love your advice. You're an amazing mentor and coach, and that you are.
Awesome.
You are absolutely amazing." And people are loving
Thank
the
you.
conversation, saying that it's amazing. But this, what you have said, is so true
Thank you.
because a lot of times I find that as HR professionals, we either fall in one of those three brackets, right? Um, we're okay to make the sacrifice so that the organization gets the benefit. But at the end of the day, do we really recognize that the part that we play in the organization means we have to develop and grow too? In order for us to add the value that we add to the organization, in order for it to be more meaningful and intentional, we have to develop and grow too. So when those sacrifices are being made, or those suggestions or recommendations come across the table to make cuts in HR, we need to fight for that with dear life, because if
Yes.
we don't develop and grow, then how do we help the organization to thrive and grow? It's almost impossible.
Do you know what, Julie? You're so right. And if you don't put yourself first, if you aren't your own cheerleader, who's
Hmm.
going to be a cheerleader for you?
Exactly.
You've
Exactly.
got to be your own cheerleader and then create the space for others to come alongside you.
Yep.
That's what you do.
That's exactly what you need to do. But so many of us as HR professionals are really afraid to make that move, and say what needs to be said to defend and fight for ourselves. I want to ask you this just on the side. Like, we have a list of questions, but like, it's so great talking to you, and like, we could have like an easy conversation. What were some of the challenges that you experienced early in your career that led you to recognize the importance of, look, if I don't start fighting for myself, I'm going to end up in trouble? Like, what were some of those experiences like for you, and what did you do?
Oh my goodness. Waiting quietly to be picked. So thinking if I work hard, if I keep my head down, work hard and deliver and show up, somebody's going to say, Yetunde, you can do that job. Yetunde will nominate you for that project. No, that's not going to happen because there's going to be somebody more sleek, more sophisticated in the way they deliver something, and they'll just promote themselves. And I'm thinking, well, surely my hard work is going to speak for itself.
Yeah.
And then I found it quite difficult to point the finger at myself and say, I did that project. That's my that's my piece of work. That was my idea. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, in fact, one of my team who came into the organization I was working with, the last business before I left. And I tell you, Julie, I've never met somebody so skillful as sitting next to another individual and very nicely sharing what they're about. And then it was a friend of mine, when you have a buddy who can be a
Yes.
mentor,
Yeah.
that said, because I did never had a formal mentor. This is why I believe mentoring is so important, by the
Yeah.
way. It was a friend of mine that says, well, Yetunde, you've got to think about your elevator pitch. And I said, what does that mean? And
Mm.
she said, in just a few words, just talk about, you know, what you do, why you do it, where you're doing it, and then think and what you want from that person. Can I have a coffee with you? Can I come and spend some time with you?
Mm-hmm.
Can I have some advice? People love to give advice. And
Yeah.
so I started practicing that, and that started to help me. The
Mm-hmm.
other thing as well, being a Black female, as some of the experiences I had been told, oh, you're scary, or
Mm.
you're a little bit aggressive, Yetunde, sometimes. And when you're given that kind of feedback that you can't do anything with, and I didn't realize that it was actually microaggression, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
So and then you're thinking, what can I do with it? So it got me back into my shell.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later on somebody said to me, well, first I changed company, by the way. When I
Uh-huh.
was hearing that, I changed company. Then
Okay.
it was somebody else, a colleague, that said to me, actually, Ethan, you got to accept yourself for who you are. If you're loud, if you're aggressive, if you're whatever, hey, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Be yourself.
Self.
And that's
Oh.
why over the years, I've come to see love as one of my tenets. And I believe that love is the
Mm-hmm.
most critical leadership capability that we
Yes.
can have as HR leaders, that any leader can have, but
Mm-hmm.
especially an HR
HR.
leader who doesn't come from a place of love.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to say, am I in the right profession or not? So I had so many obstacles and so many challenges, but I'm thankful that I managed to overcome most of them. Not all,
Yes.
but most of them.
Most of them. Well, I'm glad that you overcame them too.
Thank you.
To be able to not only have that pride for yourself in
Yes.
knowing that anything is possible for you,
Yes,
that you
absolutely.
can achieve those obstacles, you can climb
Yes.
over them. But the fact
Yes.
that you now have a story that you can share with our audience today and audiences around the world that will help HR professionals, especially for us as HR professionals, women of color in the world,
Yes.
existing in organizations, how we can, really do better and be better for ourselves. I really like this comment that Jolene made as you were talking about, taking control of your career. And she was saying that you have to be the architect of your future.
Absolutely. I completely agree with Jolene. You cannot wait for people to pull you up. You've got to stand up on your own feet. And
Yes.
the world is becoming so much more competitive. And you have so much talent inside of you. You've got so much potential. And it would be a crime if you didn't amplify your voice and amplify your strength so that somebody else can succeed.
Yeah.
And if you're waiting for someone somewhere to say, oh, there you are, Yetunde, there you are, Julie, there you are, Jolene, we can wait forever. You'll be waiting for Godot. You know, there's a book called Waiting for Godot. You'll be waiting for Godot. You've got to
Uh-huh.
stand up on your own feet and you've got to plan your future,
Yes.
knowing that it could change. Your plan could change. Goodness me, that's life. But
Uh-huh.
start with a plan and start to move forward.
Yes, definitely. It's funny that you said that because I was having a conversation earlier today with Matt Phelan, and he is the CEO and founder of the Happiness Index. And so we
Mm,
were having this conversation about um, excellence. How do we manage excellence? So is it just employee engagement, or employee engagement and happiness, and how the two come together? And you mentioned something really important, that as HR professionals, we were talking about demystifying HR. And he was saying one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about HR professionals is that they say that they are more on the business side versus on the people side. So like some HR professionals will say, well, I'm people driven. Another HR professionals will say, well, I'm business driven. And what Matt was saying is like both go together. And it kind of really hones in on the point that you just made about HR professionals coming from a place of love.
yes,
That's what I was
absolutely.
getting to. Yes.
Yes, yes. And do you know what, Julie? I think that's just a matter of a figure of speech when some HR people say it's the business. It might be driven more because of what they like to do and where they want to be. Because without people, you can't have an organization. Without people, you can't have a business. So they're one and the same. In fact, your business strategy is your people strategy. When people say, oh, I've got
Yes.
this, can you have your people agenda next to your business strategy? No, you haven't got a strategy to execute if you haven't got your people strategy. In
Yes.
fact, the reason why organizations fail or stand is because they haven't quite thought of the people implications of things that they're doing. And they
Mm-hmm.
haven't brought their HR leaders, their HR team into the room to
Yes.
have a proper discussion with them.
Oh,
So
yes.
and that person then comes in with love at the center, the love for the business, the love for the consumer, the love for who the human being is, because we're so
Yes.
complex.
Yes.
And that's where they come from, and then support their colleagues in saying, okay, what's the plan, where are we? And strategy is overrated. Strategy is nothing more than an action plan. We want to
Mm-hmm.
get to here and we're here. How
Yes.
do we get
How do
there?
we get
And
there?
and what are the people implications? That's why you need your HR
Correct.
professionals in the room at
Yes.
the highest levels, the middle levels, every level.
Every level. We should never be an afterthought. It should always be that we are right there in the heat of the discussion when it's happening in the moment. We need to be
Yes.
there. So how do we get there, Yatande? What practical steps can we take as HR professionals to advance our careers?
Do you know what? The first thing you want to do is find your joy. So what do I mean by
Oh,
that?
woo,
Huh?
tell them.
Joy is the
Yes,
combination. It's of knowing what you're about, what your role is, who you are, what you stand for, and at the same time, accepting yourself. So joy is different from happiness. Happiness is good too, it's great. Happiness relies on the external world to have you be happy. What people say about me, the feedback, what my colleagues say, what the world is saying. What joy is from inside. And that's what keeps you standard and resilient. So the
Centered,
first thing
yeah.
is know your purpose, know why you do what you're doing. Make a
Mm-hmm.
note of it. Third, work on accepting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've done that, stop comparing. That's another practical step because
Oh yeah.
HR is not HR in different organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Some businesses are more prescriptive, others are not. You
Yeah.
have a startup with only 10 people can be as fantastic and exciting a job as an organization with hundreds of thousands of people. So stop comparing. You are fearfully and wonderfully made as you are.
Yeah.
And then find a way to understand your strengths. What are you really good at?
Mm-hmm.
What are you great at? And what do you love to do? Because it's not everything that you're good at that you love to do.
Yeah.
In my last job, I was having to deal with lawyers a lot of the time because of whistleblowing in parts of the world. And every Monday I'd get into the work and I'd be dealing with lawyers and employee relations. I was good at it.
But
Did
you
I
didn't.
love it? No. Oh my goodness. I was dreading the call from the
Yeah.
lawyers every time. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got to look not just what you're good or great at, but what you also love. And then as an HR professional, think, what is the demographic I want to really make a difference with and
Mm-hmm.
where? What kind of people, what kind of professions? Because you owe it to yourself, and that helps you bring your very best. Seek feedback and input from others, and then have a go at dreaming. Why not dream? If you're not the kind of person that can dream all the way till the very long term, think about where would you like to be in 2 years' time?
Yes.
3 years' time, Julie, if we were to sit here, what would we both be doing differently?
Uh-huh.
Where? For whom? And why? So those are the practical things I would do. Then
Yeah.
write them down and then say, okay, next month I'll be here. And what I'm going to do between now and then to get there will be this, this, and this. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can look back and enjoy your progress to getting there. That's
Yeah.
what I would do.
Yep. It's so clearly defined
You're welcome.
and comes with time and experience. And I think that one of the things that you mentioned before, with regards to like, as you take these practical steps, the importance of recognizing, I think I remember it well from Mel Robbins, where she said, no one is coming to save you. No
I
one is
love that.
coming to save you. So the hero that you're looking for to come on a white horse or wherever is not coming to save you. That dream job is not just going to pop up just like that. You've got to put in the work, put in the effort, and put yourself in those spaces. So that
Yes.
dreaming big is important, but it means then that we have to be proactive. So, why is it important to be proactive in trying to advance our careers, and how do we get proactive?
You know what? If no one's going to manage your career for you,
Nope.
and we all work in organizations, it's like when we go and talk to headhunters, you must have an idea what you want to do and where you want to do it. Otherwise, you'll be put in a box. The same it works in organizations we're already in. They
Yeah.
have boxes, they have job titles, they have roles and structures. So you've got to proactively say where you want to go on the playing field that you're at and
Yes.
when. And if you can't see a box where you can fit in, create that box.
Yeah.
And the way that you do that, you network, find out more about yourself, get to know yourself,
Mm-hmm.
know people. And in fact, an awesome woman in an event I was just in before now said
Uh-huh.
something that struck with me. She said, Yetunde, she was saying to the Solaris leaders actually, and I
Uh-huh.
was there too. Oh, what I learned, she said, it's not who you know, it's who knows you,
You.
and therefore the power of networking. So therefore, be proactive in advancing your HR career. And HR is a people business. It's a
It is.
people business.
Yep.
So even if you don't enjoy networking, practice it a
Yeah.
little bit each
A
time.
little
Reach
bit.
out to people, absolutely. So
Yes.
that's the key thing. Network, back yourself, have
Mm-hmm.
a clarity of what you want to do next, and be able to explain it either for your organization, your bosses, your colleagues, and for the people out there. And if you're speaking to headhunters and search firms, give them direction on where you want to go, what
Yes.
you want to do, and why.
Yes. Absolutely. Great advice. You're just dropping gems all day long today.
Thank you.
Unstoppable you. What are some of the benefits? And I think we touched on this before. So, as we talk about being proactive and networking, you mentioned earlier about the importance of mentoring, having mentors in your life.
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits that we can derive from seeking mentors and or coaches and trying to help us in advance our HR careers? And this is one of the things that I always talk to my clients about, as I coach HR professionals, the importance of either hiring a coach or getting a mentor. And there's nothing wrong with having more than one mentor, because you have mentors who are great at different facets of HR. And then there's nothing wrong with hiring a coach to just help you hone in and get clear, on where you want to go and how you're going to make that trajectory to get there. So, what are some of the benefits that we derive from that?
Oh, Julie, you're so right. I mean, first of all, I very rarely had mentors, and I think that if I had a mentor more formally through my career, I would be better placed today. I would have had
Mhm.
less headaches and maybe even be more successful than where I am now. And I act as a board mentor. So I also appreciate the benefits when I mentor the C-suite leaders and these board directors myself. I'm appreciating the benefits that they have. So what's the benefit? And this is particularly critical for the HR professional. And why is it critical? Because of the nature of the job that you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with emotions of others and your emotions. You're dealing with the intellectual challenges and values of others, and you're dealing with yours. So the benefit is having that safe space where you can have that confidential sounding board,
Yeah.
that you can have a wrestling of ideas with, without judgment, before it's fully formed. And
Mm-hmm.
then you go out and you share it with your stakeholders. And that could be something to do with you. It could do with a project you're working on. It could be an important decision you're going to have to make. It might be something to do with values, integrity, whether it's something ethical or unethical that a
Mm-hmm.
key stakeholder is going to be involved in. So having that mentor who can give you some sound advice, or
Yes.
indeed hold the mirror up to you, is a
Mm-hmm.
superb benefit. It really is.
It
And then a
definitely.
coach, Julie, which is what you are, is that person that actually has you, drives you, and has you be accountable, and helps you be better, and helps you hone in, and gives you those deadlines by which you've got to improve, as well as helping you facilitate through some of those answers for yourself.
Yeah.
So both, if you have a coach and a mentor, hey, that would be great.
Definitely. Definitely. I always encourage people to get both.
Mm.
Because I think like I've learned so much as a result of having mentors in my life. And I still constantly, down to this day, I'm always looking and benefiting from the advice of mentors like yourself, in the
Thank you.
space, like sharing and helping me to develop my craft.
Mm.
And you only get better by having people who are there to help you sharpen your skills, right? Iron
Absolutely.
sharpens iron.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So we really want to make sure that we're making the best use that we possibly can in developing our HR careers through mentorships. I want to touch a little bit, Yetunde, on learning and development.
Okay.
So, like, I think we have a it's fair to say we have an even mix in our audience today of people from the UK versus people from the US versus people from the other parts of the Caribbean. And there's always this tussle between CIPD versus SHRM, right? What are your thoughts on this, my champion?
I know. So, so was that a hint not to be biased, Julie?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's always hard. I struggle with it. You know which line of the sun I am in. I am so sorry
Julie,
I'm not in Manchester today.
you know, well, I have to say, I'm a huge fan of the CIPD.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot about shroom, but I do have colleagues and people in my network about shroom. This is
Yes.
how I see it. I believe that as an HR leader, we must set an example for other people. And so wherever you're at, whichever of the bodies is the most prevalent, Join it, network, work hard to achieve the qualifications and the certifications that enable your continuous professional development, whether
Yes.
that's SHRM or the CIPD. And what you'll find is that you said it, Julie, in some parts of the world, shroom is more prevalent and in
Hmm.
others the CIPD. So see where you're at. And if
Yes.
you're working in a global organization or you have global responsibility, encourage your teams, depending on where they are in the world, to affiliate with one. And you know what? Actually, I do know some people who actually affiliate with both because the
Both.
CIPD brings some certain knowledge and strengths, and
Yes.
Shroom also brings some certain knowledge and strengths. So
Yes.
we kind of do ourselves a disservice at times when we say it's either or. Well,
Or
actually, color between the lines.
yes.
It can be both. But if
Yes.
you wanted to choose one, see which part of the world you're in. Where do they have the most presence? Which one, which institute, which organization has the most presence, the most events, the most accessibility, and then
Choose
hang
according.
your hat on that, yes.
Yes. Best advice. Spoken like a true
But if you're in the UK, CIPD.
CIPD unequivocally.
If you're in the Middle East, CIPD.
Absolutely. Hands down.
If you're in Ireland, CIPD.
You get the gist. We know where we're going. And if you're in the Caribbean, I still recommend CIPD because you know that the islands were pretty much colonized by the British, which means there's British legislation all around. And so it makes it easier for you. But choose as you will, but choose wisely.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with coloring in the lines. And I love that. You can do both.
You
There's
can do both. It's
nothing
amazing.
wrong.
Yeah,
Neither of them will hold a grudge if you chose both of them.
absolutely. Julie, in my last role, I had a global role, and therefore I had a massive group of colleagues in the US. And sometimes, therefore, to find information about what needed to be done there went via Shroom. And so inquired for them, asked for some help, and so on. So it's not impossible. We're all people and we're all
Exactly.
human. Yeah,
Exactly. It is definitely possible. Thank you so much for sharing that.
you're
I want
welcome.
to give you the opportunity to share with our audience a little bit about Solaris. This is your baby, and I'm so excited to see how this blossoms and grows and supports women in leadership. So tell us about Solaris and how can people be a part of it?
Oh, amazing. Well, Solaris was launched this year, Julie. It was born out of hope and pain. And what do I mean by that? As a Black woman leader myself, having gone through my career, I've told you about this, I kept my head down. And then George Floyd was murdered. And I couldn't sleep for days. And my husband said, "What are you going to do about it?" And
Mm,
I thought, well, okay, I love people. I love to learn. I've designed and delivered over 50, 60 leadership programs successfully. Well, why can't I bring this to the very demographic that I believe if an organization enabled the breakthrough for this person, they
mhm.
would be targeting all of their people, not
Yes,
just her. And I
yes,
thought, well, I'm going to target the Black woman who is advancing in her career. So Solaris is a leadership program. It's a global leadership program. So anybody from across the world can apply.
yes.
It's a global leadership program that targets the Black woman executive or indeed the woman who identifies as Black. And it's designed to have her be empowered to advance her career beyond the concrete ceiling and enable organizations that believe in the talent and the potential of all of their people to
Yes.
walk the talk. So it's a
Mhm,
1 year program that looks at the Black woman leaders, her life, her leadership, and her career. And
mhm.
it's an integrated, highly intensive program that looks at all sorts of things, the strategy, ethics, leadership, servant leadership, love-based leadership, networking, all of that, personal branding, storytelling, all of that, as well as tools to develop your career, brings in mentoring and sponsorship, organizational dialogues. But what is so powerful, Julie, is when you have a group of powerful Black women in a room
Yep.
that they can speak into each other's lives and build networks and connections, even beyond the program.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what can be created. So
Yeah.
we're in the first year. We start this current cohort ends in March, and then we start in April with the next cohort. And we've already enrolled over 50% of next year's class. And I'm
Wow.
excited. I really am. So
That's
if you're
amazing.
out there, you're a Black woman leader or a woman who identifies as Black, and you'd like to be part of Solaris, drop me a line on LinkedIn or drop me an email, or I don't know, or through Jolie, if you don't mind, Jolie passing a message to me,
Of course
and
not.
we'll take it from there, tell you all
Yes.
about it. Or you can go
That,
to my website, yetundehoffman.com, and you've got Solaris, or you can go to solarisleadership.com, and
yeah.
it will take you there.
So you have lots of options, and what we'll
I have
do
lots
is
of
we'll
options.
put all of those links in the comments after the broadcast today, so that you have easy access to them, um, so that you'll be able to access them and you can engage with Yetunde, because I think that this is really important that we, change the agenda around women in leadership.
Absolutely.
That's exactly the purpose of why you have created this, and I just think it's so powerful. And I'm so grateful that you have taken the time to craft this
Thank you, Julie.
and help women of color develop and grow in their roles.
Absolutely. Because they're talented, they're ambitious. These are leaders. These are
Yes,
leaders. So this is about giving them it's about creating an environment where they can be empowered to do much more. And
yes,
it's just a pleasure, it's an honor and a real blessing to be able to do this. Yeah.
absolutely. Any final words you have for our audience today? I can't believe it's 44. We're
Oh my goodness. Time
quarter
flies,
to the
Julie.
hour. Time flies when you're having great conversations with beautiful people.
Thank you.
Any final words of encouragement to HR professionals looking to advance their career? Anything we haven't touched that you want to touch
Yeah.
on now?
Well, I may have touched on this before, but if I have, I would say do it again. You've got to make a decision today to believe in who you are and believe in what you've got, what you can bring to the world. We've all experienced COVID. We've looked at the world, all the social and injustice, the way economies are going, well-being becoming so important, people's mental health being challenged. With all the change in digital and technology, the future of work is human, and the future of work is HR. And so, if you don't believe in yourself, how can you bring all of who you are and bring your very best to the people who you're responsible for?
Yep.
So, that's the first thing. I want you to believe in yourself
Mm,
more than anything. And if you don't have a plan for your career, make a decision to start putting one together.
yes.
Because if you don't know where you're going, somebody's going to drive you somewhere else. You want to be in charge of that. You want
Yep.
to be in charge of your destination.
Hmm. Definitely. You are the CEO of your career.
Yes.
So, how you chart it is important. You don't want to be thrown about or tossed in the wind or the waves,
No. Otherwise, you'll be like this.
flip flopping everywhere.
Yes.
Exactly.
You've got to know. You want to be clear. So that will give you reasons to say yes and reasons to say no.
Yes. Yes. And to your point earlier, I think it really is important to understand yourself and what you like about HR versus what you don't like about it. Because
Absolutely.
there are lots of things that I like about HR, but there are things that I love about HR, and then there are things that I just don't like to do.
Mm.
You
And
know?
you know what, Julie? You've just sparked something else in my head because HR is so broad.
Yes.
I mean, our profession is so broad and so exciting and all
Uh-huh.
encompassing. It can overwhelm you. Start to think about the parts of HR that you really love. Do you want to press into employee relations? Do you want to be more a learning specialist? Do you want to focus in leadership and management development? Are you more interested in the whole inclusion and diversity agenda? What is, or do you want to be a journalist?
Yes.
I tell you, our future CEOs are going to come out of the HR profession
They
because
are.
all the skills that are needed, all the capabilities needed in
Hmm.
order for organizations to be successful in the execution of their strategies in the future, a lot of it lie in what's needed in the HR leader.
Yes.
So
Yes.
start to think where you want to be in HR and
I
go for talent management. That's another one.
and
Organization development.
yes,
Sorry.
org design,
Culture,
analytics,
design.
culture,
Oh,
so much, so much
awesome.
compliance. There's so much. There's so many facets to HR. That's why I think it's like a really great time to be in HR is like right now. We didn't even touch
Yeah.
well-being, but there's so
Oh,
many,
absolutely. Well-being,
so
uh,
many,
social
so many.
mobility, recruitment, resourcing,
Yes,
career planning, management
yes,
development. In fact, I remember there was a job years ago in Unilever that was called management development. That was all about career management of people.
yes.
And so there is no time like today to be in HR. It's got to be a profession, a destination profession for the very best.
Yes, definitely. And I cannot agree with you more that as organizations start to really think about who is the best person to lead the organization and drive it forward, the more they're going to see and appreciate that is with HR professionals that they're going to see them driving the helm. I'm seeing there's so many people. I saw two of my friends recently became CEOs, were heads of HR, and are now three actually that are now actually leading their organization. So
And
we have
more will come.
Megan Newhouse, she was the CHRO, and now
Mhm.
she is the CEO. Jane White, who's in Trinidad, she was the head of her HR. She's now the CEO. And Tracy, there's another lady, Tracy, can't remember her last name, but like so amazing to see that these ladies have taken the helm of organizations coming out of their HR roles. So it is possible. It is definitely possible. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Oh,
Thank you
Julie,
so
thank you.
much
Thank you for having me.
for sharing your time and your energy. I know that you could be somewhere else. You're a busy woman. And I really do appreciate you, Yetunde, that you took the time to have this conversation with me and to talk with our audience today about how we can move our careers forward.
Thank you.
The future is bright for HR, and it's beautiful people like you that help us to see
And you.
through.
And you.
Thank you. That help us to see through the weeds of this career that can also sometimes be very controversial.
Mm.
So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. It's
So,
been a real pleasure. It really is, Julie.
my absolute pleasure. So, guys, we are at the end of our show. Just like that. That time flew really quickly. But I want to share with you who is coming up next week because I think this is a really important conversation and I know that you guys are going to love it. Next week, we're talking about uncovering unconscious bias. How do we create an organization of belonging? It'll be the first time since June that I have more than one person joining me for this conversation. So we have Sejal Thaka, Garima Gupta, and Karen Fleshman. This is a really important conversation that I know you guys do not want to miss. So join us next week as we uncover unconscious bias. Today we have uncovered climbing that ladder and how do you put your career into perspective. And I hope that you have benefited from this session today. We are at the end of another Magnifying HR Voices. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next week.